What's up, everybody? Dead Wolf here with another one. This time we're bringing you another top 10 video. Top 10 crazy facts about historical figures you never knew. Without further ado, we're going to get into this video, but before we do, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you get notified the next time I drop a new video. And maybe my intro was awkward, but I don't give a fuck. Without further ado, let's get into it.
From a U.S. president who is a champion wrestler, to an English politician with a pet bear, all the way to a pope's corpse being exhumed from the grave and stood on trial. On today's top 10 list, I'm going to be covering some of the craziest facts about historical figures that you maybe never knew. Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot today, we have Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president of the United States and is probably best known for his role in abolishing slavery. If you learned about American history in school, there is a good chance that Lincoln was included. One thing that is certainly quite a bit less well known about him is the fact that before he became a president, he was actually a champion wrestler. He was a larger man than I expected, standing at 6 feet 4 inches tall. He actually took part in around 300 matches, so it wasn't like this was just a small part of his life either. I'm not incredibly well versed in the world of wrestling.
First of all, wait a minute, hold on. Abraham Lincoln was a wrestler that participated in over 300 matches, and yes, this was the 1800s, but you gotta figure you had to be a tough son of a bitch back then. Everything was manual labor. If you were big because of what you ate and how much you worked. But man, dude, think about it. That I would put him at somewhere like the equivalent of the Undertaker. He was fucking 6'4". I wonder how much he weighed. He couldn't have been that big of a guy as far as like weight wise. He'd probably been in the 150 to 180 range, maybe. He'd have been tall and lanky. Although being in over 300 matches, it had been fairly strong. So he probably worked out fairly well. See, Abraham Lincoln wore all those suits and shit. And I bet that nigga was cut as fuck underneath.
Especially wrestling in the 1830s, but apparently he was quite a tough opponent and put up a very good fight. In our number 9 spot today, we have Pope Gregory the Ninth. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. Pope Gregory the Ninth was the Bishop of Rome and was the ruler of the Papal States from 1227 until his passing in 1241. The Papal States were a series of territories in the Italian peninsula that were under direct rule of the Pope from the 8th century all the way until 1870. Anyway, it turns out that Pope Gregory the Ninth had a very strange hatred for cats. He said that black cats were actually instruments of Satan, which seems a little bit extreme, but then he actually went as far as to order that they be exterminated throughout Europe, which is definitely a little extreme. With this order, the Pope's followers had to oblige, and there was a drastic reduction in the cat population. But this, of course, caused a disturbance to the ecosystem at the time, and the consequences of that became very evident. Because of the decline of cats, there was a sudden increase in the amount of rats there were, most of which may have been carrying the plague. There are a lot of historians who would argue that this war on cats may have had a huge effect on the severity of the Black Plague. That is, of course, speculation, as it is pretty difficult to pinpoint who could be at fault for something like that, but it certainly is interesting. In our number 8 spot today, we have Jeannette Rankin. Jeannette Rankin was an American politician and a huge advocate for women's rights. She was a pacifist who voted against both the declaration of war on Germany in 1917, as well as being the only member of Congress to vote against the declaration of war on Japan in 1941. There are quite a few crazy facts about Jeannette, such as the fact that she is the only woman from Montana to be elected to Congress, but one of the craziest facts about her is that she became the first female member of Congress in 1916, which was 4 years before women even had the right to vote. This is absolutely insane to me. She was, of course, incredibly instrumental in helping women get that right, and she actually introduced the legislation that became the 19th Constitutional Amendment, which granted women the unrestricted right to vote. I certainly am I'm grateful for the work Jeanette did to help women's rights over her 60-year political career, and she certainly left quite the legacy. In our number 7 spot today, we have Caligula. Caligula, who is formerly known as Gaius, was the 3rd Roman emperor from 37 AD to 41 AD. There isn't a ton that is known about his reign, but it is said that he was a great ruler for the first 6 months, but then he became a tyrant and was cruel and extravagant. He strived to ensure that the emperor gained more and more power. Caligula ended up being assassinated in early 41 because of his terrible leadership. It is crazy to say 41 as the year. The crazy fact that I have for you today about Caligula is that he was basically...
Sorry guys, I got distracted by the fact that it's food.
Obsessed with one of his horses. He loved this horse so much that he gave him an ivory manger to sleep in, and even gave him his own palace and servants. This is already a little over the top, but he was actually planning on making him a senator. I suppose it's a good thing that at least he extended his wealth to
Senator
one other living being instead of keeping it completely to himself, but making his horse a senator is both hilarious and very bizarre. In our number 6 spot today, we have Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin was a Soviet politician who ruled the Soviet Union from 1920 until he passed away in 1953. He is one of the most significant figures of the 20th century and has left quite a controversial legacy. But today we are not here talking about political ideologies, but instead some crazy facts. One fact about Stalin that I was surprised to hear is that he would get photos of him retouched in order to remove people that he didn't like from them. In 2021, that is a lot more common and has been made a lot more accessible, but we are talking about a Russian dictator in the 1930s and 40s, long before Photoshop and the Facetune app existed. This does quickly take a pretty dark and serious turn though, as it really was used as a form of censorship and was basically a device to erase history, which can be quite dangerous. I do wonder if this practice of photo retouching ended up having an influence on how we do things today. In our number 5 spot today, we have Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin was an English comedian, actor, and filmmaker who was one of the most iconic figures in cinematic history. His career lasted over 75 years, and he first began to rise to fame during the silent film era. Closer to the end of his career, there were quite a few controversies surrounding him, but that certainly is nothing new for the life of an entertainer. Charlie's mustache became a very popular trend around 1915 to 1921, and in that time, there were a ton of look-alike competitions being held. One day, Charlie himself decided to enter one of these contests just to see. It is rumored that he lost his own look-alike competition, and not just by a little. Apparently, Charlie ended up coming close to last in this competition, which I'm not even sure how that is possible. There is little anecdotal evidence of this story, which leads some people to believe that it is an urban legend, but I do like to believe that this one is true. In our number 4 spot today, we have George Byron. George Byron was an English poet and politician who lived from 1788 until 1824. He is one of the best-known poets from the Romantic movements and is still regarded as one of the greatest English poets of all time. George was leading a campaign in the Greek War of Independence against the Ottoman Empire when he passed away from a disease. When he was a young man and was attending university, he made quite an interesting move. The university had a rule that no dogs were allowed on the premises. A fair enough rule, and one that George would abide by. Although he couldn't bring a dog, the school didn't say anything about any other animals, so naturally George returned to school with a pet bear. The ethics of a pet bear are extremely questionable, but this happened 200 years ago, so we'll let them.
Find a flight that's the right price. Airline, stops, cabin class, and more. Search Kayak now.
Did you know that you can make money from YouTube without creating videos? That's right. You can use...
Let that one slide for now. I feel like this type of move would not fly in 2021 for a multitude of reasons, but you truly cannot be mad at George for finding the loophole. In our number 3 spot today, we have Pope Formosus and Pope Stephen VI. Adding 2 more popes to this list because, to be honest, I am not sure who this crazy fact is for. Pope Formosus was the ruler of the Papal States from October 6th, 891, until he passed away on April 4th, 896. After his passing, Pope Boniface VI took his place as ruler for just a few weeks before he also passed away, which then left Pope Stephen VI as the ruler from then on until his death. After this whirlwind April of 896, things got even weirder. Before his passing, Pope Formosus had sided with Arnulf of Carinthia against Lambert of Spoleto, which was definitely not okay with Pope Stephen VI. So, once Pope Stephen VI gets to the place of being the ruler, he gets the people to exhume the body of Pope Formosus so that he can put him on trial. I feel like that is super gross and very unnecessary, but this really is the type of stuff that went on in the 800s. They propped the body up for trial and had a deacon answer questions for him since he obviously was unable to do that himself. They ended up finding the corpse guilty, which seems a little unfair, and they actually went as far as to strip the body of its sacred vestments, took 3 fingers from the right hand as they were the blessing fingers, and then they dressed the body in regular people clothes instead of the clothing of a pope, and then they reburied the body. If this poor man's body hadn't been through enough, though, it was later re-exhumed and thrown in the Tiber. If this story wasn't already wild enough, this whole debacle is actually what would later end up getting Pope Stephen imprisoned and killed. In our number 2 spot today, we have Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison is, of course, one of the most well-known American inventors for quite a few different innovations. The founder of Ford Motor Company, Henry Ford, actually worked for Thomas at the Edison Illuminating Company in the 1890s. Henry certainly admired Thomas and was excited when he got the chance to meet him. When Harry met him, he made sure to explain to Thomas the plans that he had for his new automobile, and this conversation was what really inspired Henry to make his prototype of the Model T. From then on, the pair shared a friendship and kept in contact. In 1931, Thomas passed away after complications with diabetes. It turns out that as he was passing, Henry had convinced Thomas's son to hold a test tube to Thomas's mouth so as to catch his last breath. There are a lot of people who believe that this was Henry's attempt at catching his soul as it left his body, but that theory makes me a little uncomfortable. The test tube that was used to capture his last breath has made its way to be on display at the Henry Ford Museum that is located in Detroit. In our number 1 spot today, we have Galileo Galilei. Galileo Galilei left quite a legacy as one of the most famous astronomers, physicists, and engineers we've ever seen. He has even been called the father of the scientific method, as well as the...
Some guys watch helplessly as their manhood shrivels up like a raisin in the sun. And as harsh as that sounds, it is what's going on. They start to lose muscle mass, energy, and stamina. Their chest and belly get flabbier with each passing day. They lose their motivation and sex drive. What's causing this? Low testosterone. And the sad reality is, far too many guys go through this when they don't have to. You see, declining testosterone isn't normal. And guys don't have to lose everything that it means to be a man.
Go check out Life Renew.
The father of modern science. One of the most well-known stories about him was when he heard about the construction of the telescope, he made his own, even better version without even having seen the first version beforehand. This is all to say that he was incredibly smart and really paved the way for a lot of scientific advancements. Galileo ended up passing away when he was 77 years old on January 8th, 1642. What is crazy and very bizarre is that before he was buried, some of his admirers removed 3 of his fingers and a tooth from his body so that they would have keepsakes, I guess? Maybe that was normal for 1642, but in 2021 it definitely is a little different. In a stranger turn of events, these body parts have actually been kept since 1642 and now reside on display at the Museo Galileo in Florence, Italy. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thank you so much for checking it out. If you have any new crazy historical facts that I didn't cover on today's list, please leave them in the comments below. I've been your host, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys. Because of the decline of cats, because of the decline, I can never say this. Caligula, I think that's right. If it's not, don't come for me. He lived in, like, what did I just say? 41? He lived in 41 and it's 2021. Sorry if I'm saying it wrong. Why is there no... I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
Incidatusa.
No! That is not how I'm about to pronounce it. There's absolutely no way. I'm not going to say his name. I'm leaving that horse's name out. I'm sorry. Long before Photoshop and... Jeez Louise. As I'm saying this, like, I know that you guys...
You guys, leave a comment if you want me to start leaving in these things like this. Because you know, you guys, I don't fucking edit my shit. So, I guess when this comes out and you guys watch it, hopefully you guys will laugh if I have left anything in. I don't edit my shit out. I just start again. And, you know, whatever. It's frustrating. But it happens. And that's part of being a broadcaster. So, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Without further ado, we're going to get up out of here. Peace.